With prices on the rise and budgets being stretched, personal finance expert Barry Choi is here with more on how families can make each dollar count. And Capital One put out a pretty interesting study recently. Tell us a little bit about it.
You know, they showed basically how much people are spending on their kids on a yearly basis, and some of the stats are pretty alarming. It was close to $30 to $200 a year on food. I believe daycare costs, recreation was about $1,900. Now that sounds like a lot, and you mentioned you have a nephew. I've got a daughter, and if you see how much we spend on fresh fruit alone, it seems low to me, right? But that's not a bad thing. You think about it, it's average, but let's be serious for a little bit. We all know grocery prices have gone up, and there's only certain ways we can save. It's nice to see that, daycare costs have kind of leveled out. That could be because some daycares now offer $10 a day, but let's be realistic. Not every daycare offers that. Not every single parent can access that. So you got to factor in those costs. But on a positive note, what we've seen is clothing and transportation costs have been stable compared to last year, but 47% of those surveyed said that they're stressed out about back to school spending, and that's right now, right?
So what are some strategies for people who are feeling financially stressed? What are some tips and strategies for that?
What's interesting is the same survey said that a lot of parents are looking for ways to save actively, and one of the best ways to do that is with flyers. I don't know about you, but in the old school days, I loved flyers.
My favorite. It came in like the weekly paper, whatever you got.
It was fun, but now no one wants those.
No.
But the good thing is there's digital apps, so deals apps such as Flip, which is available on the Google and Apple stores, right? And what I love about Flip, we talked about this off camera, right? It's like you can see all the flyers in your neighborhood. We're talking about today's flyer day, right? So we're super excited. I can price compare, right? So you can look up individual items if you're looking for a new laptop for back to school, or you're looking for those chicken drumsticks for one more barbecue before the summer ends. You can find that via Flip. And what I also like is they have special sections such as back to school, so you can find out exactly what's on sale right now.
Whatever you're craving, you can just search and find. Now, how can family prepare for unexpected costs?
Unexpected expenses is tricky, but I always advise people to have an emergency fund. Cash is always key. An emergency fund is for legit emergencies. So I'm talking about car breakdowns in case you get laid off, unexpected medical expense that's going to cost you money, not a vacation, not home renovations, but 3 to 6 months worth of expenses. And keep in mind, that may sound like a lot, but if you're ever in a financial crunch, you're going to cut your expenses regardless. So it's really just the amount that you need to survive. And start with $50 a month, $25 a month, and you probably won't even notice it missing.
Starting with something that you can do so you can see that start to accumulate. Let's talk about involving children with your money talks. What's an appropriate amount to be talking to your kids about money, and how can you do it just over the dinner table?
There's a few different ways depending on how old your kids are. If you're young, start them off with allowance, educate them about how money works. So, some parents don't like saying, hey, here's an allowance, right, to do your chores. But to me, you're teaching them real life skills. And just have open conversations with them about the family budget. But another way is to use resources that are available to you. And what I mean by that is, Capital One has a life and credit blog, which has so many great resources on personal finances. I'm talking about articles that are relevant to kids of all ages. So that whether it be the ABCs of budgeting, what is a credit score, how to cut back on back to school spending. And on top of that, Capital One has this thing called Credit Keeper, which is great for all people. It's free and it's quick to check your credit score. Knowing your credit score is important if ever you need a car loan in the future or a mortgage. And the key point here is Capital One is here for all Canadians to help them with their finances, because the right knowledge, tools, and technology are critical for personal and financial well-being.
That's a great resource. Your website's also a great resource. Where can we find you?
MoneyWeHave.com.
All right, Barry, thank you so much for doing this. It's an important conversation. It's important to keep your kids involved in it as well. Really appreciate you coming in. Thanks, Barry.
No problem.